Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're really cutting through the noise around a book that sparks a lot of debate, Rich Dad, Poor Dad.
Definitely does.
Our goal here is pretty straightforward. Give you the core ideas, kind of a fast track to understanding how the financially successful apparently think about and teach money using the book itself as our guide.
And you almost have to start with that central contrast. It's fascinating. You have these two father figures in the author's life.
Right.
There's the poor dad, highly educated, a PhD, working for the state, impeccable credentials on paper.
Traditional success story, in a way.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And then there's the rich dad, his friend Mike's father, an entrepreneur. And, well, he never finished the 8th grade.
It's such a stark difference.
Yeah.
And both men, they were successful in their careers, earned good money, like substantial incomes.
For sure. Over their lifetimes, yeah.
But one, poor dad always seemed to be struggling financially. Worried about bills, taxes, ended up leaving debts. While rich dad, the dropout, becomes one of Hawaii's wealthiest men. Leaves what, tens of millions? It just flips the usual script about education, doesn't it?
It completely does. And the book argues the difference wasn't brain power, it was philosophy.
Well,
Their whole approach to money.
okay.
Poor dad had that standard advice. Go to school, get good grades, find a secure job. He even used to say things like, the love of money is the root of all evil.
A very common sentiment.
But rich dad, totally different mindset. He'd say, no, the lack of money is the root of all evil.
So that really sets up the core idea, doesn't it? That
Mhm.
maybe formal schooling teaches you how to work, but not how money works.
That's exactly the premise. Schools focus on professional skills, making you a good employee, a doctor, a lawyer, an accountant.
Right.
But the financial literacy part, knowing how to keep your money, how to make it grow, that, the book argues, is taught at home, mostly.
And if you don't get it at home,
Well, school certainly isn't going to fill that gap. That's why you can see highly paid professionals still living paycheck to paycheck, essentially.
okay, that leads us perfectly into the first big lesson from the book. The rich don't work for money. It starts with the author and his friend Mike. They're just kids, 9 years old.
Yeah, they go to Rich Dad and basically ask him, hey, teach us how to get rich.
And the apprenticeship begins.
It sounds almost harsh.
It was pretty tough love, yeah. Rich Dad hires them at his little corner store, his superette, for 10 cents an hour.
10 cents.
10 cents, 3 hours every Saturday. And after about 4 weeks, the author is just done. The work is boring, tedious, dusting cans, whatever. And 30 cents for 3 hours. He felt insulted, wanted to quit.
Which was exactly the point, apparently.
That's what Rich Dad tells them later. He deliberately paid them almost nothing. He said he wanted to let life push them around a bit.
To teach them about the trap of just working for a paycheck.
Precisely. He explained that working for money is driven by two main emotions, fear and, well, desire or greed.
Okay, break that down. Fear. The fear of not having enough money. Fear of not paying your bills. Fear of getting fired. Fear of having to start all over again. That fear keeps people stuck in jobs they might not even like, just for that sense of security.
And the desire part.
That's the flip side. Wanting nicer things. The new car, the vacation, the bigger house, the pleasure money can buy. So you work harder, maybe get a raise.
And then spend more.
And spend more, which means you need the job even more, which brings back the fear. It's a cycle.
The rat race.
That's the term Rich Dad used. Get up, go to work, pay bills. Get up, go to work, pay bills. You become controlled by the money, by those emotions, running faster just to stay in the same place.
So the real test, the breakthrough moment, came when Rich Dad upped the ante. He told them, keep working, but now, for nothing, $0 an hour.
Yeah, imagine hearing that as a kid. Working for free.
It sounds crazy, but the idea was.
It was to force them off the paycheck focus entirely. If there's no money coming in from the work itself, you have to start using your brain differently. You have to look for opportunities, not just wages.
Shift from working for money to
figuring out how to make money work for you.
Yeah.
That was the crucial shift.
And that's when they have their own light bulb moment, right? The comic book library.
Exactly. They saw an opportunity, they gathered up old comics nobody wanted, set up shop in Mike's basement, and charged other kids 10 cents admission to come in and read stacks of comics for a couple of hours.
Brilliant.
And they even hired Mike's sister to run it for them, paying her $1 a week, I think. So the business was making money, like nearly $10 a week, often while they weren't even physically there. Their money, or rather their little system, was working for them.
That's a powerful first taste of passive income. Which brings us to lesson 2. Why you absolutely need to teach financial literacy.
Right, because that $10 a week was great, But Rich Dad really drove home the point. It's not just about how much you make, it's about how much you keep.
Yeah, you hear stories all the time. Lottery winners, athletes earning millions.
And losing it all. Because they know how to earn money, maybe, but not how to manage it, how to keep it working. They lack the financial education.
So, rule number 1 from Rich Dad, the foundation of this literacy. It sounds almost too simple.
It does, he said. You must know the difference between an asset and a liability, and then buy assets.
Okay, define those terms his way, because I think a lot of people get this wrong.
A super simple definition. KISS principle, right? An asset is something that puts money in my pocket.
Puts money in. Okay.
And a liability is something that takes money out of my pocket. That's it. Focus on the cash flow direction.
Let's illustrate that. The book uses cash flow diagrams. How does it look for the rich, according to this model?
For the rich, income flows mainly from their asset column. Think stocks paying dividends, rental properties generating rent, businesses producing profit. That income then flows into their income column.
And use that income to buy more assets.
Exactly. The assets grow, generating even more income. It becomes a self-reinforcing cycle of growth.
Now, contrast that with the middle class, according to the book.
For the middle class, the primary income source is usually a job, a salary. That salary comes in and immediately flows out.
Out to where?
To the expense column, taxes, food, clothes. And crucially, into the liability column, mortgage payments, car loans, credit card debt. They spend their lives acquiring liabilities that they often think are assets.
Which leads us straight into the big controversial one, the house. Most people consider their home their biggest asset, Rich Dad says. Nope, it's usually a liability.
Right, and this always gets people fired up because, you buy a house for $300, maybe sell it later for $400. It's not a gain, an asset.
So why does he call it a liability? What's the reasoning?
It goes back to that strict cash flow definition. While you live in that house, is it putting money in your pocket month after month?
No, definitely not. You're paying property taxes, insurance, the mortgage interest, maintenance, utilities. Money's flowing out.
Precisely. It's taking money out of your pocket constantly. Plus, there's the opportunity cost the capital tied up in that house could potentially be invested in something that does generate positive cash flow.
So his advice wasn't don't buy a house, but
don't count it in your asset column if it's your primary residence draining cash. He'd say if you want a bigger, nicer house, first buy assets that generate enough passive income to cover all the costs of that house. Let your assets buy your luxuries and liabilities.
That's a huge mindset shift, which connects directly to lesson 3. Mind your own business.
Absolutely. This isn't about quitting your job necessarily, at least not at first. It's about understanding the difference between your profession and your business.
Explain that.
Your profession is what you do to earn income, likely working for someone else. You're a teacher, a programmer, a manager. You're essentially minding their business, making the owners richer.
Yeah.
Your business, according to Rich Dad, is what happens in your asset column. Minding your own business means actively spending time and money building up that column. That's where true financial security comes from.
He used a great example with Ray Kroc, the founder of McDonald's.
Oh yeah, the MBA student story. It's perfect. Kroc asked these bright MBA students what business he was in. They all said, obviously hamburgers.
Makes sense.
But Kroc corrected them. He said, no, my business is real estate.
Real estate. How?
Because the primary profit driver and long-term asset wasn't just selling burgers. It was acquiring the land under the franchises. McDonald's became one of the world's largest real estate owners. The burgers were just the mechanism to pay for the real asset, the land.
Wow. So the message is, keep your day job to pay the bills.
Use it to cover your living expenses, absolutely. But dedicate your extra time and, crucially, your surplus money to acquiring real assets. Don't just upgrade your lifestyle with every raise.
So what qualifies as a real asset in this framework? What should you be buying for your business?
Things that generate income, ideally without you having to work them constantly. So businesses that you own but don't need to manage day to day because others run them.
Like that comic book library, but scaled up.
Exactly. Also, paper assets. Stocks, bonds, mutual funds, notes, or IOUs. Income-generating real estate rental properties are the classic example. And royalties from intellectual property books, music, patents.
The key is, once a dollar goes into that asset column, it shouldn't come out easily. It's like an employee.
Right, an employee that works for you 24/7 trying to make more money.
And this whole philosophy radically changes how you approach buying, say, luxury items.
Oh, completely. The middle class pattern often is get a raise or some extra cash, immediately go buy the luxury item, the new car, the boat, often on credit.
Which adds another liability, more outgoing cash flow.
You got it. The rich, according to this model, buy luxuries last. They wait until their asset column has grown enough to generate sufficient passive income to pay for that luxury item without touching the principal asset base.
So the assets pay for the luxuries.
Yes. The luxury becomes a reward funded by the assets, not a financial burden funded by your labor or debt.
Okay, so we've covered the core lessons. But the book also touches on more advanced stuff, the skills you need, what it calls your financial IQ.
Yeah, moving beyond just the philosophy to the how-to. He identified 4 main technical skills needed for, explosive growth.
Where are they?
First, accounting. You absolutely have to be able to read and understand numbers, financial statements. If you can't read the numbers, you're flying blind in your business or investments.
Makes sense. Financial literacy starts with literacy.
Second, investing. The science and art of making money make more money. Different strategies, understanding risk and reward.
Okay, accounting and investing. What else?
Third, understanding markets. This is about supply and demand, the technical aspects of market movements, but also the emotional or psychological side. Fear and greed drive markets too, not just fundamentals.
And the fourth. This one seems crucial for protection.
The law. Specifically, understanding the advantages offered by legal structures like corporations or LLCs. Tax advantages and asset protection are huge.
Let's pause on that legal part.
Yeah.
Why is using a corporation so advantageous, according to Rich Dad?
Well, the tax system in many places is set up to incentivize business and investment. A corporation, legally, has the ability to spend money on legitimate business expenses before it pays taxes.
Whereas an employee
owns income, pays income tax first, and then spends whatever's left. A corporation spends on anything related to the business, which can include things that benefit the owner, and then pays corporate tax on the much smaller remaining profit.
So it's a legal way to minimize the tax bite on income generated through your business or assets.
Essentially, yes. It helps convert highly taxed earned income into lower tax passive or portfolio income. That's a key strategy.
This all ties into a different way of defining wealth itself, not just net worth on paper.
Right. Rich Dad wasn't a fan of net worth figures that include, personal belongings or guesses about value. He preferred Buckminster Fuller's definition.
Which was?
Fuller defined wealth as a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward if they stopped working today.
So it's about cash flow endurance.
Exactly. How long could you maintain your current lifestyle based purely on the cash flow generated by your assets without needing a paycheck? If your passive income from assets covers your monthly expenses.
Your survival time is infinite. You're financially free.
That's the goal. Your freedom clock never stops.
So we've laid out the map, the lessons, the skills, the goal. But Rich Dad consistently emphasizes that the biggest hurdles aren't usually technical. They're in your head.
Oh, absolutely. Emotional mindset. He talks about several key obstacles. Fear is probably the biggest one. The fear of losing money.
Everyone feels that, right?
Of course. Poor people, middle class, rich people, everyone's afraid of losing money. The difference is how you handle that fear. Rich Dad argued that winners aren't afraid of losing. They understand failure is part of the process. They learn from it instead of letting fear paralyze them.
What's another big one? He mentioned laziness, but in a specific way.
Yeah, not laziness like sitting on the couch all day. Laziness masked as busyness. People are incredibly busy, working their jobs, running errands, dealing with daily life.
Running hard in that rat race.
Exactly. But they're too busy or maybe too mentally lazy to sit down and actually think about their finances, to analyze their spending, to learn about investing, to actively mind their own business by building that asset column. Physically active, financially passive.
It's insightful. And the last major one, arrogance.
Believing that what you don't know isn't important. Like, I'm a successful doctor. Why do I need to understand accounting or real estate?
I'll just hire someone for that.
Right. But that arrogance, that refusal to learn, keeps you dependent on your high-tax job income and often leads to relying on advisors who might not have your best interests at heart. The world, he said, is full of educated people who are poor because they were too arrogant to learn about money.
So if someone listening takes all this in, the 10-cent lesson, assets versus liabilities, minding your business, the real challenge might be identifying your own internal roadblocks.
Definitely. Which one is holding you back the most? Is it the fear of taking that first step, maybe losing a small amount? Is it the busyness excuse, masking financial inaction? Is it thinking you already know enough?
He also calls out cynicism specifically, that inner voice.
Yeah, the chicken little, he called it.
Yeah.
The voice that constantly finds reasons why something won't work, why it's too risky, why it's a scam, without actually doing any real investigation or taking any action, just shooting down ideas.
So if that cynicism or fear or laziness or arrogance is stopping you, what was Rich Dad's advice for dealing with that inner chicken little?
It was blunt. He said, if you're filled with doubt and fear, do what Colonel Sanders did after getting rejected over 1,000 times with his chicken recipe.
What's that?
You fry that chicken. You face the fear, manage the doubt, take calculated risks, and most importantly, focus on acquiring the knowledge and then the assets that actually put money in your pocket. Start building your own business, one asset at a time.